1. Jesus, central figure of Christianity. Jesus of Nazareth taught compassion, humility, and love. His ministry and reported miracles laid the spiritual foundation for one of the world's largest religions. Even outside religious contexts, his moral teachings and the narrative of his life have influenced countless societies, shaping art, law, and ethics for centuries. 2. Napoleon Bonaparte, a transformative French military leader and emperor. Napoleon reshaped European politics in the early 19th century. Known for his strategic brilliance, he expanded France's territory and introduced reforms like the Napoleonic Code, influencing modern legal systems. Although ultimately defeated, his legacy of ambition and reform endures in European consciousness. 3. Muhammad, the prophet and founder of Islam. Muhammad's teachings unified diverse Arabian tribes under a single faith, emphasizing monotheism, compassion, and social justice. He guided the early Muslim community. Today, Islam is one of the world's major religions, and Muhammad's influence on culture, law, and global history remains profound. 4. William Shakespeare, an English playwright and poet. Shakespeare revolutionized the English language and stage. His works, like Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet, delve into timeless themes of love, power, and mortality. With unmatched wordsmithing and universal appeal, he shaped literature worldwide, making him the most celebrated dramatist in Western history. 5. Abraham Lincoln, America's 16th president. Lincoln led the nation through the Civil War and paved the path to ending slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation. Known for his integrity and eloquent addresses, such as the Gettysburg Address, he preserved the Union and championed equality, influencing the core values of modern American identity. 6. George Washington, the first president of the United States. Washington steered the young nation after leading the Continental Army to victory in the Revolutionary War. His leadership established vital precedents for American governance, including the two-term presidency. Revered as the father of his country, his legacy epitomizes Republican ideals and civic virtue. 7. Adolf Hitler, a key figure in 20th century history. Hitler rose to power as Germany's Führer and led the nation into World War II. His totalitarian regime was marked by aggressive expansionism and the Holocaust, a genocide that claimed millions of lives. His catastrophic impact reshaped global politics and remains a stark historical warning. 8. Aristotle, a towering Greek philosopher and scientist. Aristotle studied under Plato and tutored Alexander the Great. His works on logic, ethics, politics, and natural sciences laid the foundations of Western thought. Centuries later, his systematic approach continues to shape philosophy, biology, and countless academic disciplines around the world. 9. Alexander the Great, king of Macedonia and student of Aristotle. Alexander created one of the largest empires of the ancient world by his early 30s. His military genius and fearless leadership spread Hellenistic culture from Greece to Egypt and parts of Asia. This fusion of cultures influenced philosophy, language, and trade for centuries. 10. Thomas Jefferson, primary author of the Declaration of Independence and the third President of the United States. Jefferson championed Enlightenment ideals of liberty and self-government. As president, he oversaw the Louisiana Purchase, doubling the nation's territory. His advocacy for public education and religious freedom left a lasting impact on American democracy. 11. Henry VIII of England, notorious for his 6 marriages. Henry VIII also reshaped England's religious landscape by initiating the English Reformation and breaking from the Catholic Church. This monumental shift established the Church of England and strengthened the monarchy's power. His reign forever altered religious authority and royal influence in Britain. 12. Charles Darwin, an English naturalist. Darwin revolutionized our understanding of life on Earth with his theory of evolution by natural selection, most famously detailed in On the Origin of Species. His work challenged traditional views and opened new frontiers in biology, influencing scientific thought, medicine, ecology, and human self-perception. 13. Elizabeth I of England. The Virgin Queen of England presided over the Elizabethan age, a golden era of prosperity, exploration, and cultural flowering. Elizabeth deftly balanced religious conflicts and established England as a formidable maritime power. Her long, stable reign promoted the arts, fostering luminaries like Shakespeare, and solidified England's place as a global contender. 14. Karl Marx, German philosopher, economist, and revolutionary socialist. Marx authored the Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital. He critiqued capitalism, highlighting class struggle and advocating for a society without private ownership. Marx's ideas fueled political revolutions, influenced labor movements, and remained central to debates on economics, class dynamics, and governance. 15. Julius Caesar, a military general and key player in the Roman Republic's transformation into the Roman Empire. Caesar's conquests, notably in Gaul, expanded Rome's reach. His centralization of power and subsequent assassination paved the way for imperial rule under his heir, Augustus. Caesar's ambition and governance changed the course of Western civilization. 16. Queen Victoria, ruling the United Kingdom and its expansive empire from 1837 to 1901. Queen Victoria's era saw rapid industrialization, cultural shifts, and global influence. The Victorian age shaped societal norms, technological progress, and colonial expansion. Her long reign embodied an era of moral strictness, invention, and Britain's emergence as a superpower. 17. Martin Luther, a German monk and theologian. Luther sparked the Protestant Reformation by nailing his 95 Theses to a church door in 1517. Challenging the Catholic Church's practices, he advocated for individual faith and the authority of Scripture. His actions fractured Western Christianity, reshaping religious, political, and cultural landscapes across Europe. 18. Joseph Stalin, Soviet dictator who consolidated power after Lenin's death. Stalin led the USSR through rapid industrialization, brutal purges, and the Second World War. His regime oversaw significant scientific progress, but at the cost of millions of lives lost to famine and repression. Stalin's reign shaped the Cold War and global geopolitics. 19. Albert Einstein, a German-born theoretical physicist. Einstein transformed modern science with his theories of relativity. His famous equation, E=mc2, redefined energy, mass, and space-time. Awarded the Nobel Prize for his work on the photoelectric effect, Einstein's intellectual legacy profoundly influences physics, cosmology, and our fundamental understanding of the universe. 20. Christopher Columbus, an Italian explorer under the Spanish crown. Columbus's 1492 voyage connected Europe and the Americas, beginning the era of transatlantic exploration and colonization. While he opened new trade routes and shaped modern global interaction, his expeditions also led to exploitation and hardship for indigenous peoples, altering countless lives forever. 21. Isaac Newton, English mathematician and physicist. Newton formulated the laws of motion and universal gravitation, laying groundwork for classical physics. His work in optics and calculus revolutionized science, becoming pillars of modern mathematics and engineering. Newton's scientific rigor and brilliant insights placed him among the greatest minds in history. 22. Charlemagne, also known as Charles the Great. He united much of Western and Central Europe in the early Middle Ages. Crowned emperor by the Pope, Charlemagne promoted education, standardized laws, and spread Christianity. His reign laid the foundations of feudalism and influenced the political and cultural development of medieval Europe. 23. Theodore Roosevelt. America's 26th president, Roosevelt championed the square deal, stressing conservation, control of corporations, and consumer protection. A war hero and avid outdoorsman, he expanded national parks and built the Panama Canal. His progressive policies and dynamic personality redefined the presidency, making him a symbol of American vigor and leadership. 24. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. An Austrian composer of the classical era, Mozart displayed prodigious talent from childhood. He composed over 600 works, including symphonies, operas, and chamber music, celebrated for their beauty, innovation, and depth. His mastery of diverse musical forms reshaped Western music, inspiring generations of composers and connoisseurs worldwide. 25. Plato. A key student of Socrates and teacher of Aristotle, Plato laid the foundations of Western philosophy. In works like The Republic, he explored justice, governance, and the nature of reality. By establishing the Academy in Athens, he championed inquiry and logic, influencing countless philosophical, political, and educational traditions. 26. Louis XIV of France. Known as the Sun King, Louis XIV ruled France for 72 years, expanding its boundaries and centralizing power under the monarchy. He built the opulent Palace of Versailles, symbolizing absolute rule, and fostered a flourishing of arts and culture. Louis XIV's reign epitomized the grandeur and complexities of absolute monarchy. 27. Ludwig van Beethoven. A German composer and pianist, Beethoven bridged the classical and romantic eras of music. Despite losing his hearing, he produced iconic works like the Fifth Symphony and Ninth Symphony. His emotional depth, innovative structures, and profound expressiveness redefined Western music, inspiring composers and musicians across centuries. 28. Ulysses S. Grant. The 18th President of the United States and a commanding general during the Civil War, Grant led Union forces to victory, preserving the nation. During his presidency, he championed civil rights for freed slaves but grappled with government scandals. His leadership reshaped post-war America and strove for national unity. 29. Leonardo da Vinci. A quintessential Renaissance figure, Leonardo was a painter, inventor, scientist, and engineer. Masterpieces like the Mona Lisa and The Last Supper showcased his unrivaled artistic skill, while his notebooks reveal futuristic designs and a deep understanding of anatomy. Leonardo's insatiable curiosity and creative genius continued to captivate and inspire. 30. Augustus. Rome's first emperor, Augustus ended civil wars and ushered in the Pax Romana, 2 centuries of relative peace. He reformed the military, taxation, and infrastructure, solidifying the empire. Under his careful rule, Rome flourished, expanding its influence and centralizing power in a model of governance that shaped future imperial systems. 31. Carl Linnaeus. A Swedish botanist, Linnaeus developed the system of binomial nomenclature that classifies living organisms, e.g., Homo sapiens. His taxonomy revolutionized biology by providing a universal naming structure. Often called the father of modern taxonomy, Linnaeus's methodical approach underpins how we understand and categorize biodiversity today. 32. Ronald Reagan, the 40th President of the United States. Reagan championed conservative policies known as Reaganomics, emphasizing tax cuts and a strong national defense. His Cold War stance and relationship with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev contributed to the eventual collapse of the USSR. Charismatic and influential, Reagan left a decisive mark on American politics. 33. Charles Dickens, a celebrated Victorian novelist. Dickens penned works like Oliver Twist and A Christmas Carol, spotlighting social injustices and the struggles of the poor. His richly drawn characters and vivid storytelling brought public attention to the need for reform. Dickens' influence on literature and social conscience remains potent to this day. 34. Paul the Apostle, a pivotal figure in early Christianity. Paul spread the teachings of Jesus throughout the Mediterranean. Once a persecutor of Christians, he converted and authored many letters that form a significant portion of the New Testament. His missionary journeys and theology played a crucial role in shaping Christian doctrine and practice. 35. Benjamin Franklin, a founding father of the United States. Franklin was an inventor, writer, diplomat, and polymath, famous for his experiments with electricity and contributions to the Declaration of Independence and U.S. Constitution. He championed civic virtues and public service. His wit, wisdom, and scientific curiosity epitomized the Enlightenment spirit in America. 36. George Walker Bush, serving as the 43rd President of the United States. Bush's tenure was defined by the events of September 11th and the subsequent War on Terror. His foreign and domestic policies, including the conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq, shaped early 21st century geopolitics. Bush's presidency remains pivotal to modern debates on security and governance. 37. Winston Churchill, Britain's Prime Minister during World War II. Churchill's stirring oratory and steadfast leadership unified a nation facing Nazi aggression. A prolific writer and historian, he later warned against Soviet expansion in his Iron Curtain speech. His resilience and strategic insight made him one of the 20th century's defining statesmen. 38. Genghis Khan, founder of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan forged the largest contiguous empire in history through formidable cavalry tactics and disciplined forces. He unified nomadic tribes and promoted religious tolerance in trade along the Silk Road. Though known for brutal conquests, his vast empire reshaped Asia and Europe's cultural and economic landscape. 39. Charles I of England. His reign was marred by conflicts with Parliament over royal authority and religious reforms. These tensions led to the English Civil War and ultimately his execution, unprecedented for a reigning monarch. Charles I's fate questioned the divine right of kings, paving the way for constitutional changes in Britain. 40. Thomas Edison, an American inventor and businessman. Edison held over 1,000 patents. He developed the practical electric light bulb, the phonograph, and motion picture cameras. His Menlo Park Research Lab pioneered modern research and development processes. Edison's inventions revolutionized daily life worldwide, earning him the moniker, the Wizard of Menlo Park. 41. James I of England, also James VI of Scotland. He unified the two crowns in 1603. A patron of the arts, he commissioned the King James Bible, which influenced English literature and religious practice. His struggles with Parliament over authority foreshadowed the conflicts that later surfaced under his son, Charles I. 42. Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher known for challenging moral and religious conventions. Nietzsche introduced concepts like the will to power and the Übermensch. He examined the role of individual creativity in shaping values after the death of God. Though often misunderstood, Nietzsche's provocative ideas reshaped existential and postmodern thinking. 43. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, elected 4 times as U.S. President, FDR guided the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. His New Deal policies expanded the federal government's role in the economy, providing relief and reform to millions. His leadership during WWII helped the Allies achieve victory, reshaping global power structures. 44. Sigmund Freud, an Austrian neurologist and the founder of psychoanalysis. Freud explored the unconscious mind through dream interpretation and free association. He introduced concepts like the Oedipus complex and redefined our understanding of human psychology. Though debated, his insights heavily influenced psychiatry, literature, and the broader cultural discourse on human behavior. 45. Alexander Hamilton, an influential founding father of the United States. Hamilton served as the first Secretary of the Treasury, establishing the nation's financial foundations. He advocated for a strong central government and wrote the majority of the Federalist Papers. His vision for economic growth and centralized power shaped America's early political landscape. 46. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, known as Mahatma, Great Soul. Gandhi led India's nonviolent resistance against British colonial rule. His philosophy of satyagraha, inclusive civil disobedience, galvanized millions and inspired global civil rights movements. Though India's independence came shortly before his assassination, Gandhi's ideals continue to guide peace activism worldwide. 47. Woodrow Wilson, the 28th President of the United States. Wilson led the nation through World War I and championed the League of Nations as part of his 14 points. His vision for collective security influenced international relations, although the U.S. never joined the League. Domestically, he introduced progressive economic and social reforms. 48. Johann Sebastian Bach, a German composer and musician of the Baroque period. Bach's works, like the Brandenburg Concertos and the Mass in B minor, demonstrate intricate counterpoint and rich harmonies. Underappreciated in his lifetime, he later became a central figure in Western classical music, influencing composers for centuries with his profound musical depth. 49. Galileo Galilei, an Italian polymath. Galileo refined the telescope and championed heliocentrism, the idea that Earth orbits the Sun. His insistence on empirical observation challenged church doctrine, leading to his house arrest. Considered the father of modern science, Galileo's methods of systematic observation shaped the scientific revolution and modern astronomy. 50. Oliver Cromwell, a key leader in the English Civil War. Cromwell helped overthrow King Charles I. He later became Lord Protector, ruling England as a republic. Although he championed religious freedom for some groups, his governance was marked by strict Puritanism and military rule. His controversial legacy looms over British political history. 51. James Madison, hailed as the father of the Constitution, Madison co-authored the Federalist Papers and championed the Bill of Rights. Serving as the 4th U.S. President, he guided America through the War of 1812, reaffirming the nation's sovereignty. His political thought on checks and balances remains foundational in American governance. 52. Gautama Buddha, born as Prince Siddhartha in ancient India, He renounced worldly life to seek enlightenment. His teachings on the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path guide followers in overcoming suffering. Founding Buddhism. The Buddha's emphasis on compassion and mindfulness resonates through spiritual and philosophical traditions across Asia and beyond. 53. Mark Twain. The pen name of Samuel Langhorne Clemens. Twain was an American writer and humorist celebrated for novels like Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. His sharp wit and keen observations of human nature and social injustice remain influential. Dubbed the father of American literature, Twain shaped the country's cultural and literary identity. 54. Edgar Allan Poe. An American writer, poet, and literary critic, Poe pioneered the horror and mystery genres. Stories like The Telltale Heart and poems like The Raven explore psychological depth and the macabre. Though he struggled personally, Poe's haunting imagination and innovative storytelling techniques continue to captivate readers worldwide. 55. Joseph Smith, Jr., founder of the Latter-day Saint movement. Smith claimed divine revelations and published the Book of Mormon. Despite persecution, he established a following that grew into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. His teachings and visions shaped a religious community that continues to expand globally. 56. Adam Smith, a Scottish economist and philosopher. Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations, outlining the principles of free markets and the invisible hand guiding capitalism. His ideas on division of labor and economic freedom shaped modern economic theory. Known as the father of capitalism, Smith's impact pervades global trade and policy. 57. David, King of Israel. Biblical figure revered in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. David rose from shepherd to king of Israel. His reign is noted for uniting the Israelite tribes and establishing Jerusalem as the capital. David's complex story of valor, faith, and personal failings remains symbolic in religious narratives and Western cultural references. 58. George III of the United Kingdom. Ruling during a turbulent era, George III oversaw Britain through the American Revolution, losing the American colonies in the process. His long reign also witnessed the Napoleonic Wars. Known for bouts of mental illness, he faced growing parliamentary power. His reign marked a turning point in the British monarchy's evolution. 59. Immanuel Kant. A Prussian philosopher, Kant profoundly influenced modern thought by examining reason, morality, and human perception. In works like Critique of Pure Reason, he bridged rationalism and empiricism, proposing that our minds shape our experiences of reality. Kant's moral philosophy, emphasizing duty, remains a cornerstone of ethical theory. 60. James Cook, an 18th-century British explorer, navigator, and cartographer. Cook mapped areas of the Pacific, including Australia, New Zealand, and Hawaii. His detailed charts and scientific approach aided further exploration and colonization. Though he met a violent end in Hawaii, his voyages expanded Europe's geographical knowledge and global influence. 61. John Adams, a founding father and the second president of the United States. Adams played a pivotal role in advocating independence. He helped draft the Declaration of Independence and negotiated peace with Britain. His presidency faced foreign challenges, and his commitment to Republican principles influenced America's early political framework. 62. Richard Wagner, a German composer and theater director. Wagner's operas, such as The Ring Cycle, are noted for their complex textures and leitmotifs. He introduced new musical structures, transforming opera into a more cohesive art form. Though personally controversial, Wagner's innovations influenced generations of composers and remain staples of operatic repertoire. 63. Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, a leading Russian composer. Tchaikovsky blended Western and Russian musical styles in his symphonies, ballets, and concertos. Renowned works like Swan Lake and The Nutcracker are celebrated worldwide for their melodic richness and emotional depth. His expressive music helped define Russia's cultural identity on the global stage. 64. Voltaire, a French Enlightenment writer, historian, and philosopher. Voltaire championed freedom of speech, religious tolerance, and reason. Famous for works like Candide, he wielded sharp wit to criticize dogma and oppression. His advocacy for civil liberties and skepticism toward authority influenced revolutions in France and beyond. 65. Saint Peter, one of Jesus' 12 apostles. Peter is considered the first pope by Catholic tradition. His leadership in early Christian communities helped anchor the church's structure. Often seen as the rock upon which Christianity was built, Peter's faith journey, from wavering disciple to courageous martyr, resonates deeply with believers worldwide. 66. Andrew Jackson, the seventh President of the United States. Jackson was a polarizing figure who expanded executive power. A war hero from the Battle of New Orleans, he appealed to the common man, ushering in the Jacksonian democracy era. However, his policies, including the Indian Removal Act, had devastating consequences for Native Americans. 67. Constantine the Great, the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity. Constantine ended the persecution of Christians with the Edict of Milan. He founded Constantinople, shaping the Eastern Roman Empire. His acceptance of Christianity profoundly influenced European religious development, laying groundwork for Christendom's fusion of church and state. 68. Socrates, an ancient Greek philosopher. Socrates pioneered a method of questioning beliefs to expose contradictions and stimulate critical thinking. His pursuit of wisdom and emphasis on moral philosophy influenced generations of thinkers. Although executed for his ideas, Socrates' legacy endures through the works of his students, chiefly Plato. 69. Elvis Presley, dubbed the King of Rock and Roll, Presley revolutionized popular music in the mid-20th century with his distinctive voice, charismatic performances, and fusion of musical styles. His massive cultural impact broke down racial barriers in music and inspired countless artists, shaping the global landscape of modern entertainment. 70. William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy who claimed the English throne in 1066. William defeated King Harold at the Battle of Hastings. As King of England, he centralized power and commissioned the Domesday Book, a landmark in administrative governance. His conquest reshaped England's nobility, language, and ties to continental Europe. 71. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States. JFK guided the country through pivotal Cold War events like the Cuban Missile Crisis. His vision for the space race and civil rights legislation inspired a generation. Though assassinated in 1963, Kennedy's idealism and oratory influenced American politics and global perceptions of leadership. 72. Augustine of Hippo, an early Christian theologian. Augustine's writings, such as Confessions and the City of God, shaped Western Christianity and philosophy. He merged Greek philosophy with Christian doctrine, discussing sin, grace, and the nature of God. His ideas on free will and divine love heavily influenced medieval thought and remain central in Christian theology. 73. Vincent van Gogh, a Dutch post-impressionist painter. Van Gogh pioneered bold colors and expressive brushwork, though he struggled with mental illness and sold few works in life. Pieces like Starry Night now rank among the world's most famous. His emotive style reshaped modern art, influencing generations of expressionist and abstract artists. 74. Nicolaus Copernicus. A Renaissance mathematician and astronomer, Copernicus formulated a heliocentric model placing the Sun, rather than Earth, at the center of the universe. This radical shift laid the foundation for modern astronomy. Though initially resisted, Copernicus's findings spurred the scientific revolution and changed humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. 75. Vladimir Lenin. Leader of the Bolshevik Revolution, Lenin established the world's first socialist state in Russia, later forming the Soviet Union. His interpretation of Marxism, known as Leninism, influenced global communist movements. While credited with championing the working class, his regime also laid the groundwork for authoritarian governance under successors. 76. Robert E. Lee. A career military officer, Lee commanded the Confederate Army during the American Civil War. Renowned for his tactical prowess, he became a symbol of Southern identity and post-war reconciliation. Though revered by some, his role in defending slavery and the Confederacy remains controversial within the broader context of U.S. history. 77. Oscar Wilde. An Irish poet, playwright, and wit, Wilde is best known for works like The Picture of Dorian Gray and The Importance of Being Earnest. His flamboyant style and sharp social commentary challenged Victorian norms. Imprisoned for his sexuality, Wilde's life and literary legacy celebrate individuality and critique moral hypocrisy. 78. Charles II of England. Restored to the throne in 1660, Charles II reestablished the monarchy after Cromwell's Commonwealth. Known for his lively court and patronage of the arts, his reign eased religious tensions, although conflicts persisted. The Restoration era, with its scientific advances and cultural vibrancy, shaped modern Britain's identity. 79. Cicero. A Roman statesman, lawyer, and orator, Cicero championed Republican values during the final days of the Roman Republic. His works on rhetoric, politics, and ethics deeply influenced Renaissance humanism and the shaping of modern democratic ideals. Cicero's eloquence and philosophical insights still resonate in political thought and legal traditions. 80. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. A French Enlightenment philosopher, Rousseau's works like The Social Contract propose that legitimate government is based on popular sovereignty and the general will. He also advocated for natural education and individual freedom. His ideas helped ignite the French Revolution and significantly influenced modern political and educational theories. 81. Francis Bacon. An English philosopher and statesman, Bacon pioneered the scientific method, championing empirical inquiry and inductive reasoning. Known as the father of empiricism, he urged scholars to break from outdated authorities. His systematic approach to experimentation shaped the Enlightenment, forming the foundation for modern scientific research and discovery. 82. Richard Nixon. The 37th President of the United States, Nixon pursued détente with the Soviet Union and opened diplomatic relations with China. However, the Watergate scandal overshadowed his achievements, forcing his resignation. Nixon's complex legacy highlights the power and pitfalls of executive office, shaping how Americans view political ethics and accountability. 83. Louis XVI of France. The last king of France before the French Revolution, Louis XVI's indecisiveness and mounting national debt provoked unrest. The revolution ultimately led to the monarchy's downfall, and his execution. His fate symbolizes the collapse of absolute monarchy in France and the rise of republican ideals that reverberated across Europe. 84. Charles V. Holy Roman Emperor, ruling a vast empire that spanned Europe and the Americas. Charles V's reign embodied the challenges of religious upheaval sparked by the Protestant Reformation. Despite attempts to preserve Catholic unity, his empire was riddled with conflicts. His abdication eventually led to the division of Habsburg territories in Europe. 85. King Arthur, a legendary British ruler. King Arthur's historical existence is debated, but his mythic status has endured for centuries. Tales of Camelot, the Knights of the Round Table, and the quest for the Holy Grail symbolize chivalry, honor, and unity. Arthurian legend influenced medieval romance and remains a cultural touchstone. 86. Michelangelo, a Renaissance master in sculpture, painting, and architecture. Michelangelo created iconic works like David and the Sistine Chapel ceiling. He pushed artistic boundaries with his anatomical precision and dramatic style. His enduring influence on Western art is immeasurable, reflecting the Renaissance focus on human beauty and individual creativity. 87. Philip II of Spain, son of Emperor Charles V. Philip II oversaw Spain's Golden Age, ruling over vast global territories including the Americas and the Philippines. A defender of Catholicism, he fought wars against Protestant forces in Europe. Though his rule was powerful, financial strains and military losses, like the defeat of the Spanish Armada, marked his reign. 88. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a German writer and statesman. Goethe's works, like Faust, exemplified the Sturm und Drang and Weimar classicism movements. His explorations of emotion, science, and philosophy had broad intellectual impact, laying groundwork for Romanticism. A polymath, Goethe remains a giant of German literature and an exemplar of cultural and intellectual depth. 89. Ali, founder of Sufism. Ali ibn Abi Talib, cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, is revered in Islam, particularly by Shia Muslims. Many consider him pivotal to the spiritual underpinnings that led to Sufism's development. Esteemed for his wisdom, bravery, and devotion, Ali's influence resonates in Islamic mysticism and devotional practices. 90. Thomas Aquinas, an Italian Dominican friar and theologian. Aquinas merged Aristotelian philosophy with Christian doctrine, championing scholasticism. His Summa Theologica systematically addressed theology, ethics, and metaphysics. Canonized as a saint, Aquinas' synthesis of faith and reason profoundly shaped Catholic doctrine and Western philosophical discourse. 91. Pope John Paul II, a charismatic global leader of the Catholic Church from 1978 to 2005, John Paul II traveled extensively, promoting interfaith dialogue and human rights. He played a vital role in the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe, notably in his native Poland. His papacy remains one of the longest and most influential in modern history. 92. René Descartes, a French philosopher and mathematician. Descartes is famous for "I think, therefore I am." He introduced a systematic approach to doubt, laying modern philosophy's foundations. In mathematics, he pioneered Cartesian coordinates. His dualistic view of mind and body remains a central topic in philosophical and scientific discussions. 93. Nikola Tesla, a Serbian-American inventor and electrical engineer. Tesla's work on alternating current revolutionized power distribution. Renowned for his visionary ideas, like wireless energy transmission, he shaped modern technology. Though overshadowed in his lifetime, Tesla's genius in electromagnetism, radio, and robotics underpins numerous innovations we rely on today. 94. Harry S. Truman, the 33rd President of the United States. Truman assumed office during World War II's final stages. He authorized the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and implemented the Marshall Plan to rebuild post-war Europe. Truman's doctrine of containment shaped Cold War policy, influencing America's global role for decades. 95. Joan of Arc, a French peasant girl turned military leader. Joan of Arc claimed divine guidance in rallying France against English domination during the 100 Years' War. Captured and executed for heresy, she was later canonized as a saint. Joan's bravery and martyrdom embody national unity and faith-driven leadership. 96. Dante Alighieri, an Italian poet of the late Middle Ages. Dante authored the Divine Comedy, a profound journey through hell, purgatory, and paradise. His use of the Italian vernacular elevated it to a literary language. The epic poem's allegorical themes about morality and divine justice continue to influence Western culture and literature. 97. Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Prussia and later Germany. Bismarck orchestrated the unification of Germany through strategic wars and diplomacy. As Chancellor, he maintained a balance of power in Europe, introducing progressive social reforms while preserving conservative institutions. His realpolitik reshaped the European continent and set the stage for modern Germany. 98. Grover Cleveland, the 22nd and 24th President of the United States. Cleveland is the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. Known for his integrity and opposition to corruption, he vetoed numerous congressional bills he deemed wasteful. His leadership helped refine the powers of the presidency and underscored fiscal responsibility. 99. John Calvin, a French theologian and pastor during the Protestant Reformation. Calvin's doctrine of predestination and emphasis on God's sovereignty shaped Calvinism. His work in Geneva built a strict religious community that influenced Puritanism and Reformed churches. Calvin's theology and governance model profoundly impacted Protestant traditions around the world. 100. John Locke, an English philosopher. Locke's ideas on natural rights and the social contract heavily influenced modern democracy. He argued that government's legitimacy comes from the consent of the governed, and that people have the right to life, liberty, and property. His writings laid the intellectual groundwork for liberal political thought and America's founding principles.